first video in a while. Hi everybody. Let's take a quick look at IGNYTOR and PYRANT, the two newest additions to the Legends of Dragonore line, which is far and away my favorite modern toy line. Everything about the look and feel of the Legends of Dragonore line is very retro, but this is a new IP, even though it's obviously inspired by Masters of the Universe and those kind of beefy 5.5-inch figures. And the Legends of Dragonore line has been out for about, I don't know, at this point, maybe a couple years. We've gotten Wave 1 of figures, Wave 1.5. I currently have Wave 2 pre-ordered. In the interim, we've gotten these two guys, which are a good and bad guy. Two larger figures that have alt modes. They can both be ridden by the other figures in the line, kind of akin to, you know, Battle Cat and Panther. Or they have sort of an action figure mode as well. And I mean, if your line's called Legends of Dragonore, it's about time we get a couple dragons. And I'm sure I won't be able to help myself but gush over this line in general once I get these guys out of the box. But in case you're interested, I don't know if you can read that. There's the bio for PYRANT. The bio for IGNYTOR. They're hefty boxes. They're everything down to the packaging in this line has been super high quality. The cardstock for the boxes, the plastic quality on these figures is the best thing I've seen from a modern toy line, hands down. But yeah, anyway, let's get these guys out of the box, and hopefully they hold up with what this line has given us thus far. And these two additions to the Legends of Dragonore line just kind of reinforce that, yeah, this is my favorite modern toy line. So let's talk about them. So these guys both come in stacked levels of separate pieces in their boxes. So you're kind of assembling them. They're kind of Build-A-Figures that you have to put together. Kind of akin to like Modulock or Multibot from Masters of the Universe. They stand about between 10.5 inches tall, so they're big. And for comparison, here are the head good guy, Barbaro, and I am blanking on the bad guy's name. Oscuro, that's this guy's name. Sorry. Yes, I did have to look it up. So yeah, these two big boys stand almost double the height of all the other figures in this line thus far. And that is because, well, obviously we had to get dragons in this line, but they also have an alternate mode that I'll show you where they're meant to, any of the other figures in the line are meant to ride atop the dragons, hence the saddles on their back. So we'll look at those modes in a second, but let's get a closer look at these guys in their sort of like bipedal warrior dragon mode. All right, so first up we'll look at IGNYTOR here, who is the dragon head you see as part of the logo of this line. The jaws don't open. This is just one big solid piece. He has two neck pieces that both rotate. There is no forward or backward bend or anything like that. If you're like a fan of like over-articulated figures, this line might not be for you. that doesn't bother me. It's actually one of the things that I appreciate and enjoy about this line, but I'll talk about that more in a second. The armor bits are a softer plastic that are on the figures almost with the exact same attachments as Masters of the Universe figures. The saddle just hooks onto that. It's easily removed. The arms rotate 360 degrees. There is a waist swivel. The legs are totally one solid piece. They only rotate at the where the hip meets the body. And there is 2 pieces for the tail. So 2 points of articulation, and the wings are also they just rotate. So yeah, these are not really articulated figures at all. Oh, speaking of the arms as well, there is a sort of a forearm swivel. I don't really know why these came attached from the upper arm, but it is another point of articulation if that's something you care about. You do have to put his sort of like staff together. It's just the single weapon or accessory that he can hold, but it is a nice one. The paintwork on every figure in this line has been absolutely top notch. The paint quality, like the gradient between the colors, is beautifully done. The biggest thing for me that really sets these figures apart from anything else that I've seen on the toy market these days is the plastic quality. The plastic used for this toy line is dense and heavy, and is just so obviously, at first, as soon as you have it in your hand, you can tell that the quality is leagues above what most major toy companies put out. And everything is so solidly constructed and manufactured that it takes some muscle to assemble these guys. Everything is so tight, not to the point where you're worried that, you know, paint is going to chip off or something like that, which again, it doesn't. In my experience with Legends of Dragonore, I haven't had any issues with any paint scuffing or peeling or scratching, despite the fact that all the figures have very tight joints. They're just really well made. Yeah, I really can't overstate the quality of these figures across the entire line thus far. The heft to these guys, how solid the joints are, the quality of just everything that's gone into them, the paint apps, the sculpting, everything is just top notch. It's so obviously many steps above what other toy companies are putting out these days once you have one of these guys in hand. And on top of all that, I am not bothered at all by the lack of articulation, because as far as my nostalgia is concerned, which is always like the biggest motivator as to what I buy, I was as happy as could be with my 5 POA when I was a kid. And if they're stock and muscular and they're in this pose as if they're ready to do battle, that was all I ever needed. So I don't need additional joints. 5 POA done very much in the style and homage of like Masters of the Universe is all I need, and no toy line is hitting those marks better than this, in my opinion. All right, now I'll stop gushing over that, and let's take a look at Pyrant, who is just distinct enough and obviously a very different color scheme to warrant his existence in the toy line. And of course, you know, you have to have, if you're going to have a giant dragon on the good guy's side, you need one on the bad guy's side. The face sculpt is very different, in my opinion, from the other dragon. Again, beautiful paint apps, all the same articulation. There are less paint apps on the armor, which is a little bit of a bummer, but again, I'm really just nitpicking. Some nice sculpted detail. Oh, I'm just noticing that. There is a little bit of detail sculpted into him, like the fraying of some of the scales on him, but nothing is overdone. Really solid, a lot of character. His weapon, his mace here, is not quite as interesting as IGNYTOR's fired staff, but it does the trick. Let me bring IGNYTOR back over here to show you the one the one gripe I do have, and it is that there is, depending on what mode you have these guys in, there is a giant peg hole just exposed on the back of their heads, which when you change them into sort of like on all fours so that the other figures can ride them, you pop this guy's head off and pop it on there instead. So regardless of what kind of mode you have them in, there's always going to be one hole exposed on the back of their heads, which is a little bit of a bummer. It is kind of an eyesore, but again, at the same time, the simplicity, if done really, really well and made very well, the simplicity is something that is more valuable to me than seam lines and extra accessories, or if they would have given us sort of like just like a plug to round out the back of their heads. Some people probably have an issue with that. I'm not going to lie, it is a small issue with me, but it's really the only issue I have with these guys. All right, let's take a look at them in their other modes, which, I'm sorry, just as a note, you do have to swap out their arms for this alternate set of them for those modes. So let's do that. And they look equally as good in this mode. But my God, I'm surprised I'm not bleeding. It is a workout getting the second set of arms on, as well as swapping out the head, not just because of how tight the pegs and peg holes are, just based on the and also like the quality of the plastic, but also just because of all the spikes and horns on their heads and such. It is tough not to injure yourself. But anyway, again, I say that with a smile on my face, because it's just more proof that these guys are just really, really well made. And the real test. The figures from the line fit perfectly. In this mode, they almost seem a little undersized, the dragons, but not really, not by much. These are two big additions to the line that I have been anxiously awaiting for, and yeah, to me, they were every bit worth the wait. If you're a fan of 5.5 inch, like the muscular 5.5 inch action figures from back in the day, you cannot do better than what the Legends of Dragonore has been giving. And that's just a quick look at Pyrant and IGNYTOR from the Legends of Dragonore line.